Good morning, guys. Today in grammar, we are going to be working on good, complete sentences. When I've noticed when you guys have done some of your work and I ask you to write me a sentence, I've noticed a lot of times that you guys don't really know or don't seem to know how to write a good, complete sentence. So I thought we needed to work on it a little bit more today to practice making sure that we know what is a good sentence and what's a complete sentence. So let's look at what sentences have to have. So a sentence tells a complete thought and it makes sense. That's what a lot of us are having the most trouble with. For example, when we do those vocabulary pages out of our little Unit 4 or Unit 3 book, and it asks you a question, sometimes you guys will only write like one word. And that doesn't really give me a complete thought, and it doesn't really make sense. For example, if I said, "What do you want to do outside today?" and you said, "Play." Well, play's not really a complete thought, because you didn't really tell me all of what you were thinking. Play? Play what? Play where? Play with who? You've got to tell me more. So that's what I mean by a complete thought and makes sense. If you just say play, if you walked up to somebody and just said play, they would be really confused. That would make no sense to them. But if you said, "I want to play on the slide," that would be a complete thought. It would make sense to people. And like I said, that's what we seem to be having the most trouble with. You guys aren't writing complete sentences that make sense. For example, these two are good. I saw a zebra at the zoo. I enjoy field trips. If you walked up to somebody and said those two, they would make complete sense. They're complete thoughts. But if you just walked up to somebody and said mean lions, they'd be like, "What about the mean lions? Are they behind me? Did you see them? Are they fuzzy green mean lions? I don't know." If you don't tell somebody a complete thought, it doesn't make sense and it's confusing. So sentences have to be complete thoughts and make sense. And then the last thing that sentences have to have are end marks and capital letters. End marks are at the end, like periods or question marks or exclamation marks. And then they always have to have capital letters at the beginning. You guys do a pretty good job with the capitals and the end marks. There's a couple times when you guys write me a sentence for the vocabulary words or whatever that you forget maybe a capital or an end mark. But most of the time you do that. It's just the complete thoughts that you guys are having some trouble with. So we're going to practice that a little more. I've got a sentence here, or do I? I want you to read this and we're going to decide if it's a real sentence or not a sentence. So I want you to think. Somebody walks up to you and says, "The store in town." Does that seem like a complete thought? Is it telling you everything, or would it be a little confusing? The store in town. Well, what about the store in town? Are you going to the store in town? There's no milk at the store in town? I don't know, because it's not complete. So this, we would say not a sentence on this one, because it's not a complete sentence. You didn't finish telling me about the store in town. That's what I mean by complete sentences. It doesn't matter if you put a capital or an end mark if your sentence isn't a complete thought that makes sense. All right, what about reading a good book? Think. If somebody walked up to you and said, "Reading a good book," would you be confused or would you understand them? Reading a good book. Well, who's reading a good book? What about reading a good book? Reading a good book is fun. Mary is reading. I don't know, because they didn't tell me. You're right. This one is also not a complete sentence. It didn't tell me everything about the reading a good book. I don't know who it was or what about it. Sentences have to be complete. You have to tell me everything, not just a few words. All right, that is a funny story. Think if you walked up to somebody and said, "That's a funny story." that doesn't really seem that confusing. I think they would know what you were talking about. You're saying that's a funny story. That seems like a complete sentence. So, yep, that one's fine. It's complete and it's one thought. Like one thing you think of, that's a sentence. All right, what about I can read the book? Yeah, that one makes sense too. If somebody walked up to you and said, I can read the book, you would understand what they were saying. It would make sense to them because it's a complete thought. So very good. That's a sentence. Is fun to do with friends. This one should be really easy. It's not a sentence for one really easy reason. It's not a sentence because it doesn't even have a capital at the beginning. And sentences have to have capitals at the beginning. But it's also not a sentence because it doesn't even make sense. If somebody walked up to you and said, is fun to do with friends? You'd be like, what is fun to do with friends? They didn't tell you a complete thought. So it's not a good sentence for two reasons. You're right, not a sentence. And then I think this is our last one. I enjoy reading with you. Do you think it's a sentence or not a sentence? Very good. I enjoy reading with you is a sentence. It makes sense and it's a complete thought. We know who and we know what they like to do. That's a sentence. So good. That makes complete sense. All right, so remember, sentences have to make sense. They have to be a complete thought and they have to have capitals at the beginning and end marks at the end. So you have two assignments that go with this today. Your first assignment is this one right here. You're going to write me 3 good sentences about volcanoes. Make sure the 3 sentences you write have these things, that they make sense, that they're complete thoughts, they have capitals and end marks. And you can tell me anything you want to about volcanoes. Think about the story. Maybe you learned some stuff in the story. But I just need 3 good sentences, anything you want to tell me about a volcano. It can even be made up or not true if you want it to be. I don't care as long as it's just 3 sentences about volcanoes, okay? You're going to take a picture of those and send them to me. And now I'm going to show you what the other part of the assignment looks like. So when you click on the other assignment, it's going to bring this up. And you might have to go up here to the top and push slideshow and then go over here and push from the beginning to make it come up. Yours might already pop up and look like this, but if it didn't, go to slideshow and from the beginning. But alright, so we're going to play a little game just to practice more on sentences. So after you write your 3 volcano sentences and you take the picture, click and play this game. So of course you're going to push go to go. And here's the instructions, answer the question, click answer to check you, click on home. I'm going to show you though. Alright, so that reminds us about sentences if you want to read that. It tells you what sentences have to have. And we're ready. And there are 25 on here. But I'm going to tell you that you can quit. You can do all 25 if you want to. It's great practice. But you can quit if you get 10 in a row correct. So that means you have to get 10 right and then you can quit. You don't have to do all 25, okay? You get 10 correct and you're done. And you can click on any of them you want to get started. It doesn't matter. Maybe you want to start with 15. There's 15. So, this one says, I have to fix the incomplete sentence. So, we know that Tommy borrowed. If somebody walked up to you and said, Tommy borrowed, you'd be like, Tommy borrowed what? That's not a complete sentence, so you have to pick what Tommy borrowed. Tommy borrowed idiot. That doesn't make any sense. Tommy borrowed. No, that doesn't make any sense. That one does. So I think it's 2 books. And now it won't. Oops. It won't do anything usually. I'm going to go back to previous. If you click on it, it's not going to pop up the answer. This is how you know if you're right. You go down here and you click answer. We were right. Now I know, guys, that you can go here, click on anyone and hit answer and know the answer. But that's not what you're supposed to do. You're not learning anything. So the first thing you should do is find the answer, and then you'd only hit answer to check yourself so that you make sure you're learning, okay? It doesn't do any good to sit here and hit answer and know all the answers without actually thinking about it first. You're not learning anything, and you're only hurting yourself. So when you do that, you go home and you pick a different one. So maybe I want to do 7 this time. I have to tell me if it's complete or incomplete. So complete means a good sentence and incomplete means a not good sentence. So the soccer ball belongs outside. So I walked up to somebody and said that the soccer ball belongs outside. That seems like a good sentence. I think this one's good. I'm going to check and see if I'm right. I was right. Awesome. So then I can go home and pick a different one. Remember, you can quit when you get 10 of them right. And see, look, it makes the ones that you've done go away. So you know you're not going to do them again. So I know I've done 2. So if you get 10 of them right, you can quit. If you don't get 10 right, keep trying until you can get 10 right, okay? And if you want to do all 25, do all 25. That's fine too. But you only have to do 10. All right? All right, so write your volcano sentences and then play this game. Have fun, guys.